Hey everybody, it is February 23rd, 2026. Welcome back to Brody's Garage. Hey everybody, it is good to be back here. This is going to be episode 2.1 of the new Brody's Garage. If you didn't pick up on the last episode, I made an announcement from my previous channel over at my regular Brody Dolinick channel that I'm going to be moving everything automotive to this new channel here. So I hope that you found me, and I hope people continue to find me. I know that it's going to take some time. Yeah, I got a new shop. I decided to redo my project. I have ordered a brand new body shelf from Real Deal Steel, which is being built probably within the next 4 to 5 months. And in the meantime, I had to find a new home to do this work in because the 4 years doing this at home in the 2-car garage was just too much for me and the family. As I mentioned previously, I rented a warehouse here in Las Vegas, and I'll take you through some of the things I've been doing over the past month. Okay, so it's been just about a month since I took possession of this warehouse. It's about 1,400 square feet, including the bathroom and the small office right over here. I have not done anything in the office and barely anything in the bathroom at all. I've just been busy in the shop here, and if you take a look around here, I'll walk you through kind of what I've done. The first thing I did was I painted that back wall gray. I'm going to have a cool sign up there of some sort that'll have Brody's Garage, maybe some products, which we'll talk about shortly. From there, I bought a brand new compressor. It's just been sitting there in the corner waiting, and it's not been started or anything. I moved all the stuff from my home garage, including my tool chest, my cabinets, and a bunch of other stuff, and as well as my storage unit full of music and audio video supply stuff, which is over there. So I've kind of condensed everything into this one shop, saving myself some money on a storage unit and saving my marriage, hopefully, by moving out of the garage. As you see here in front of me, I've got an 11,000 pound rated 2-post lift. Some people say, why'd you go with the 2-post lift? Well, here's the thing. A 4-post lift is nice when you've got a finished car and all you want to do is drive up on it, maybe do an oil change or maybe do some exhaust work. But when you're talking about lifting a bare body that has no suspension, there's no way to do that on a 4-post lift. So hence the 2-post. This was a recommendation from my friend Ian over at Redline Stands. In fact, I bought this from Ian at Redline Stands. The funny thing is, when I first ordered it, by mistake, the shipping company, and I'm not going to blame Ian for this, but the supplier shipped me a 4-post lift. I didn't realize it until I got it on the trailer, loaded up, and backed into this shop and started unwrapping it, that I realized, oh my God, this is a 4-post lift. This is not the right thing. So after a few phone calls, what we decided the best solution would be to see if I could find a local buyer here rather than dealing with taking it back to the dock, shipping it back and waiting. So as it turned out, I found a local guy here to come buy the other one, trailered it over his shop, unloaded it, and got rid of that thing. And then directly after dropping that off, I went 2 miles over to the loading dock where the new 2-post lift was already waiting for me. So the whole process only took about a week. It was kind of a huge faux pas on both the supplier's part and my part. It's the first time I bought a lift. I really didn't know what to look for, and I just kind of said, okay, signed off for it. They forklifted it on there, got it over here, and it wasn't until I got like half of the small components unpacked, and by small, I mean about 500 pounds worth of stuff, unpacked, that I realized it was the wrong thing. So fast forward to now, I've got the 2-post lift installed, and I'm going to do a complete video walkthrough of this installation in a separate episode, but suffice it to say, it took me and my buddy Bruce to get that thing stood up, and then a lot of drilling and a lot of plumbing and electrical. We're going to talk about that next. So the lift is anchored to the concrete, and I got to tell you right now, the instructions call for 4 1/4 inches depth of concrete. I got to tell you, I just passed the minimum. My anchors were 4 1/2 inches. That's when I broke through the concrete into the dirt, pretty much consistently all across the board. And the anchors themselves only embed about 3 1/2 inches, but they're calling for a slab that's 4 1/4 inch. Mine was 4 1/2 inch. We're talking just barely over the line, and I'm fingers crossed, in good shape. Each post has 6 anchors going around the columns there. I did some shimming to level it out, and I got it within a half a degree of level and plumb. Took quite a bit of work, but it's in there. It's pretty solid. And of course, before I do any serious lifting, I'll get a car on here. I'll get it mounted, maybe lift it a foot off the ground, do some shake test on it just to check. I'm going to go back and recheck the torque on those bolts in a few weeks, make sure that they're all snug down. But I think we've got a pretty solid foundation here, and I don't see any evidence of cracking or movement so far. So that's the lift. Then I began working on electrical because none of this stuff is going to work without power. I had 2 electricians come out and give me estimates on running circuits over here. And basically it came to about $3,600. I decided, you know what? I'm not going to spend that much, especially on a situation where in a couple years I might be out of here. So I'm just going to do the work myself. Picked up the materials at Home Depot, ordered some wiring online, and I started the process, and I'll walk you through what I did there. So the first step was kind of estimating what I'm going to be using for power. I've got the 220 volt 2-post lift here, which only pulls about 18 amps. So a 20 amp circuit for that. That compressor back there is a 220 volt as well. It pulls 32 amps under max inrush, and then it settles. So I'm going with a 40 amp breaker for that. So we got 60 here, and then we still have this unknown entity that's going to go in this corner here. And what I'm looking at is a laser CNC machine that will do laser cutting and welding. The one that I'm looking at the most is from Gweike or Gweike, however you pronounce it. It's made overseas, of course, and it'll cut metal, it'll cut acrylics, it'll do a lot of stuff, it'll weld, it'll do engraving. And that's a 32 amp breaker plus a standard 110 outlet for the electronics. So all in total, what I decided on doing was installing a sub panel right here on the wall. And I'm pulling a 100 amp breaker over there with a feeder wire. Now that does not mean that I'm gonna be drawing 100 amps because not all of this stuff's gonna be running at the same time. But I figured I would go a little bit overkill. So I'm pulling 1 gauge aluminum wire from the main panel. And we're going to install a 100 amp breaker right over here. Somebody installed a 220 outlet here and a 30 amp breaker right there. This is going to go away, so that's my slot for my 100 amp feeder. And then I started running conduit. I cut a hole in the wall, knocked out here, and we have an 1.5 inch conduit. I had to cut that elbow and make that little S bend there. But I think it turned out pretty good. This is really my first time doing any electrical work, but the feeder wires will go over here to the sub panel, and we're going to have 40 amp breaker for the welder stuff. We've got a 40 amp breaker for the compressor, a 20 amp breaker for the car lift, and then another standard 110 volt 20 amp breaker for some wall outlets, which will go along the wall here on top of my workbenches. So far, I got the feeder conduit run. That was a fun job because I had to go up and over that, what do you call it, that little floodlight over there. So I had to come up and over that. I stopped here at the wall with a, what do they call that, a pull box or an LB joint. That's where I'll pull to, and then I'll restuff the wires and pull again. There's a 90 and another 90 coming down here to the panel. And then I've already run one of my breakouts for the 2-post lift. That's 1/2 inch conduit going up, over, and down the column there. And I'm gonna put a cutoff switch there and then finish that wiring. I think I'm gonna move the compressor into this corner because not only will it be a shorter run for electric, but also every so often you gotta drain that tank. And it actually has an automatic drain electronic solenoid, so you can set it on a timer and have it drain every so often. And right here is the clean out for the bathroom. Now, I don't think I'm gonna go directly into that because I don't want like sewage gas coming back up, but I am gonna go into the bathroom and find a way to tap into maybe the top part of the P-trap or something so that I can discharge that drain into there without reintroducing backflow into the compressor. And then, like I said, once I fully commit to the laser machine or welder, either way, there needs to be a 240 volt outlet in this area right there. And I've got a 40 amp breaker for that. So these are my plans for the electrical. Like I said, I painted. I did a little plumbing work here because there was no line for a hose, and occasionally I'm gonna hose this place out. So I ran that extra line down there. Of course, what I didn't know is that that valve there was faulty, and so I couldn't shut off the water supply the whole way. So this solder joint there, I had a heck of a time with that. It just kept springing a leak. So I called out a pro plumber, and they replaced the valve above that one up there. And boy, I gotta tell you, that was quite an ordeal because he shut off the wrong main supply before he started cutting, and he started cutting into that pipe, and there was just water blasting everywhere, all over the bathroom, and I got drenched, and it was a nightmare. But he got it sealed up, and we have a working spigot there for a hose. So I was finishing up the 2-post lift install today, and I was putting my whatever legs or forks or whatever you want to call these here, and got all 3 of them on, and then I got to the 4th one, and you'll notice this tab is bent. It's either welded on crooked or it's bent, and it's closed up too tight to get it around this carriage thing here. So here's the great thing about knowing somebody from Red Line Stands. It's not that things won't go wrong, because they do go wrong sometimes. But the key is when they do, you want to have somebody that's got your back. And Ian, a very quick text to him, I had the matter resolved in a matter of minutes. They're going to ship me a brand new arm, and that should be here in a couple days, and I'll be good to go. Oh, I did buy another rotisserie. That's right, pretty much the same one that I had the first time around. Of course, I thought I was going to be done with it, sold it off. Well, here we go again. So I bought another rotisserie. The only difference is this time I got the crank drive spinner. So basically, instead of having to tilt the thing manually, you can just give that thing a crank and the car will rotate on its axis. And of course, I had to go back to Harbor Freight and buy myself another brand new 2-ton shop crane, which, by the way, has already come in handy. This thing helped me get that thing off the trailer, and it also helped me to raise these carriages because these things weigh several hundred pounds. And when you're trying to raise these things up and down and adjust them, you can't do that by hand, so thank you, Shop Crane. I'm also planning to upgrade the lighting in here right now. We just got fluorescent lights up there, and I'm going to replace those with the honeycomb or hexagonal shaped fixtures that go up there. They'll be LED, they'll be brighter, they'll take less power. So needless to say, this is still a huge mess right now. There's stuff all over the floor and tools, and I'm just in the middle of putting all this stuff up. We got a fire extinguisher and a first aid kit over there because, God forbid, I hope I don't ever need them, but if I do, they're going to be right there within reach. I'm trying to be smart about all this and lay everything out the right way and do the electrical the right way, and I'm going to have a licensed electrician come and sign off on it. So I've probably got at least a couple more weeks, if not another month, of just getting moved in, and then I'm going to get my buddy's trailer back to him. But before I take it back, I've got to get the Nova over here. And let's talk about the plans for the Nova. So I've already ordered a brand new body shell. So what am I going to do with the existing one? I'm probably going to sell it. I'm probably going to sell the car mostly like it is. I'm going to probably pull the engine and trans and keep that. And I've got some plans for the chassis. And I think I'm going to hold off talking about that until the next episode because I'm going to be going in a different direction. So check back with me for updates. The shop's going to be a lot nicer here in the next couple weeks. And I really can't wait to get fully moved in, get everything put away in its place and organized. And I got some new fastener and nut and bolt organizers that are coming. So I'm really looking forward to having a nice, clean, tidy shop, just a nice place that I can get around in and work in and build the Nova better than I built it the first time. So thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe if you haven't, because I'm not going to be doing any automotive stuff on my old channel. It's going to be all over here. So please subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode of Brody's Garage.